Well, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to present today. Thank you, Connie. As you heard, my name is Terry Monjet. I am a certified equine Gestalt coach, Canfield methodology trainer, and a transformational speaker. I'm an award-winning author of Finding True Purpose: Life Beyond the Castle, and my expertise is overcoming the obstacles and unraveling the stories that are keeping my clients from living their best, most successful life. By partnering with my horses, we get to the root of what is currently holding you back from being your most awesome self. And we give you the tools you need to stride with confidence into the future that you dream of. Now, we all grow up hearing messages that block the essence of who we truly are. During this talk, you'll learn how to recognize those messages, become aware of your triggers, and choose how you respond to get the outcome that you desire. As a traumatic brain injury survivor, I chose how I would respond to my diagnosis. And as I said, now I'm an award winning author and a successful business owner. So let's learn how you too can overcome your stories and thrive. Awareness. Let's start with awareness. So many things we take for granted because they're not in our immediate awareness. Our toes, our teeth, even our brain. That is until something goes wrong. You get a blister on your baby toe. Now you are aware that you have toes. Or a searing pain on the left side of your mouth every time you try to chew. Now you're aware that you have teeth, and apparently one of them is not working. For me, awareness was profound in September of 2009. I was slowly waking up, but things seemed strange. The bed was smaller and I had wires attached to me. I looked over to the corner of the room and I saw my brother. Now, wait, what? My brother lives clear across the country, so what's going on here? Then I saw my husband, so okay, everything seemed better. On the other side of the room was a former colleague. This can't be right. What I found out that was that I was in ICU and had been there for 3 weeks. I had sustained a traumatic brain injury and I had a long road to recovery. 3 weeks in ICU, 4 weeks in a rehab hospital, and another 4 weeks in a transitional living center. A few days into my stay at the transitional living center, I met with the doctor and chief neuropsychologist who told me that before my brain injury, my brain function was about a 6 or 7, which is normal. After the brain injury, my brain function was maybe at a 2.5. And after 2 years of rehabilitation, I might get back to a 5. Now, I could have taken that message and added it to the accumulated messages that I had received over the course of my lifetime, which you can read about in my book, and accept that I was broken. This is the new normal. And now I will always be less than. But after some thought, I realized that I could choose how I responded to that message. And I decided to call bullshit on the doctor's diagnosis. Only I could put restraints on my recovery, and I chose no restraints. With the support of my husband, I moved my family and my herd to Colorado and started my business. And as I said, I'm an award winning author, a successful business owner, and my passion is serving others. My expertise is helping women and couples unravel their own stories by partnering with my horses at my 6-acre ranch in Sedalia. In the next few minutes, I will share with you the 3 steps to help you begin to unravel your own stories. First, you have to become aware that you have stories that are impacting your life. Then you have to become aware of the triggers that set you off and have you automatically react. Then we will turn how to choose a more intentional response by seeing that, my favorite quote, maybe you have to let go of who you think you are so that you can become who you are actually meant to be. So here you see on the screen, you see a whiteboard. Familiar with the whiteboard? Back in the day, before Zoom and presentations like these, you would do in person presentations with a whiteboard. On the whiteboard, you would write your presentation and do it again for the next one, and again for the next one, and again for the next one. And if you have any familiarity with whiteboards, you realize that writing the same message on the board and erasing it, you can still see those messages. And that's what happens to us over the course of our lifetime. We get these messages that are written on our personal whiteboards. And even though you try to erase them, or you think you might have erased them, you can still see the message. So, stories. Recognize what we tell ourselves. Where did they start? These messages are written as our personal whiteboard over and over again through the course of our life. And if you're familiar with using the whiteboard, the more you write the same thing on it, when you erase it, you can still see the message, as I just said. I was awareness of my own story. I learned very early that I was not good enough just on my own to be included. When I was about 10, my family was on vacation. We were at a lake in upstate New York, and my sister and her friend were going out on her friend's boat, boating on the lake. I wanted to go with them, but my sister didn't want me to come with her. What I found out was that if I bought or if I offered to buy a tank of gas or lunch, they would let me go with them. So I could buy my way into friendship and community. And I took that message with me through grammar school, through high school, early in my business career, and on and on. So I was working with a client that had received similar messages to mine over the course of her lifetime. We were in the arena with my herd of horses, and I asked her to make friends with one or more of the horses and have them join up with her and follow her just because of her. No bribing, no rope around their neck, no nothing. As she was interacting with the horses and I was coaching her to unravel her story of not being good enough to be accepted, the horses ignored her until she realized that she needed to accept and love herself first. As soon as she did this, two of the horses approached her and followed her as she walked away. So, an action step. What's the story that comes up for you that's keeping you from being the best you can be? You may be aware every time you speak with one of your siblings on the phone, you become anxious or agitated and you're not sure why. What I help you with is to figure out what that message is and where it starts. Starting today, I invite you to become more aware of these messages and these stories and journal about them when you become aware of them. You may not be come to a conclusion yet, but starting the process will help begin to unravel your PTS, post traumatic stories, which is the title of the next book that I'm working on right now. So, triggers. Once you know your message in your story, the next step is becoming aware of what triggers you. What makes you react? Wow, for an example, wow, what an interesting color you're wearing. Trigger. When you were 6, every time you dressed yourself, your mom said, "Oh my God, what an awful color. I can't believe you picked that out. You can't dress yourself. You have no fashion sense." So the message you received is, I am not color coordinated. I have no fashion sense. And every time someone comments on what I'm wearing, that just proves it. So as a client example, I was working with Sharon and she wanted to figure out why she kept sabotaging herself every time she got close to being successful. What was her definition of success? I asked. Her father was very successful, and what she remembers is that he never had time for the family. He was always too busy with work, and she overheard family friends always call him a jerk and he was a complete idiot. What I'm hearing you say, as I said to her, is that being successful, you have to give up your family, you can't be there for them, and you have to be a complete jerk. She sat back on her chair and said, "Oh my God, I never thought of it that way before." As we were talking, one of the horses started trying to tip over her chair. He kept bumping into her and knocking into her, and he was being a complete jerk. Once she had the realization that her idea of success was based on her father's story and not her own, the horse let out a full body shake and walked off. If you already know what you want to work on, continue to explore more about the original messages and where they started. Write down in your journal and ask yourself, is that really true? To be successful, does Sharon really have to give up her family and be a complete jerk? To be valued, do you really have to give everything to everybody? To be content, do you really have to give up your dreams and goals? Get curious about what your triggers are. And finally, we can choose to have an intentional response, making the conscious choice to respond intentionally instead of autopilot and automatic reaction. I was working with Bernadette and Alan for couples coaching. On this particular day, they must have had a discussion in the car on the way to the ranch, as they were both clearly agitated when they arrived. We were seated in the arena, and I had Bodhi and Kai with us, my two horses, for their session. "So, what's going on?" I asked. Alan started talking about what had happened in the car. As he talked, I noticed that Bernadette crossed her legs and her arms and leaned over. I recognized this as a classic defensive posture. By this point, Alan was standing up and getting louder. I sat there contemplating whether I was going to choose how I would change their outcome. I could either change her reaction or change his reaction. As Alan continued to try and get his point across, I knew this dynamic was very familiar to them. And I considered, who I should start with first. While I was contemplating which way to go, Bodhi, one of our horses, joined us. He walked in between Bernadette and Alan, grabbed her by the shoelaces, shook her foot, dropped it, and walked off. So Bodhi changed Bernadette's reaction and provided me with the perfect opening to coach them through the process of becoming aware of the event, their reaction, and what they had to do to change their usual outcome. I turned toward Bernadette and asked her what just happened, and she responded that Bodhi had shaken her foot and made her shift her focus. I pointed out that she had changed her posture as well. I coached her through Bodhi's lesson by asking her about the focus and the posture before Bodhi shook her foot, and she responded that she was focused intently on what Alan is saying, which is something she did whenever they were in the midst of a serious discussion. How else might your whole demeanor be interpreted? She looked at me slightly perplexed. I knew she didn't recognize what I was pointing out, so I said, "What, with you sitting there, legs and arm crossed and leaning forward, might it give someone the impression that you are in a protective defensive mode?" She sat back, taking in what I had just pointed out, and she said, "Wow, okay, fair enough. I hadn't looked at it like that before. So how might you change your dynamic in these situations?" She thought about it a moment, did a whole body shake, planted her feet on the ground, and placed her hands in her lap. I turned to Alan. I said, "Now, how does that feel for you?" He said, "So much better. I feel like I'm being received." I asked them to start again. Alan sat down. Bernadette sat across from him, open and receptive, and they were able to discuss the issue calmly and ultimately reached an amicable conclusion. By changing their reaction, they were able to choose their outcome by choosing how to respond. So the next time you become aware of being triggered, take a breath and choose to respond differently to get the outcome that you want. So I've shared with you 3 steps to begin to unravel your own stories. You become aware of your stories, you acknowledge your triggers, and then you choose to take a moment and respond instead of react. I am Terry Monget, a recovering alcoholic and traumatic brain injury survivor. And every day I choose how I will respond to my circumstances, and you can too. I'm here to help you on your own journey. By reading my book, you can see how I was able to unravel my stories and how they intertwined throughout the course of my life. I invite you to come to the ranch and have a free discovery session to see what it's like to partner with the horses on 6 outstanding acres at Begin Again Ranch in Sedalia. And if you can't make it to Colorado, we can do this online, although without the horses, but we get the same results. In the meantime, close your eyes, take a deep breath, smile, and begin again, just like I did. Thank you.